But as I started going to these appointments, fortunately for me, I couldn't hear that doctor that told me I may never make it through the night, that I may never walk and talk on my own again. And all of those challenges he said that would be up against me. It was not up to the doctor. It was my decision to make my life whole again. The phone call that I described that my parents received in the middle of the night, that became my motivating fuel. And as I exited the hospital, it was on day 24. The whole world was in front of me, but I would be lying to say if I wasn't a little bit nervous or scared about the uncertainty of everything that would be. At this point, I should have been just a couple of months away from graduating and starting my first full-time position post-graduation, but instead, I was traveling back to New York to rehab. There was no way I could have done any of this alone, but getting out of the hospital, there was some concern if the buzzers getting a haircut, right, the hair clippers, would be painful for my brain in a way, those loud noises, but grateful that it wasn't, as I certainly needed to get a haircut after being in the hospital like that, and me shaving for the first time, right in the hospital, trying to learn to shave again, and I looked like the Wolverine from the Marvel movies, so you can have a laugh at my expense there. But yeah, with that, I was on my way. I was dealing with several side effects from the TBI, like the cognitive disabilities, mood swings, irritation, memory issues, right? Short-term memory difficulties. You'll read in this book how it took me 6 years to notice a huge memory shift, difficult forming solutions, and general thinking, right? These are ones that I personally went through and still go through in a way. So I know in chapter 4, we talk a lot about symptoms, but I wanted to talk about this as it came up because once I got back to New York, it was off to the races, right? I also talked about taking things for granted at points in this book. What about the ability to breathe, speak and spell, to use your motor skills, to use the bathroom, shave and shower, right? The ability to walk, the list can go on. As this book is more focused on helping others with traumatic brain injuries and improve their lives. If you read Left for Dead, you can do a full deep dive into my entire experience in the hospital. But in New York, the main thing for me was staying focused, right? Not living in denial anymore. Practice walking against the walls in my house with the leg brace I have on, not missing a single appointment. I knew, as much as I argue with my mother about wanting to go, not wanting to go in general, if I did show up to these meetings and appointments, it would get me back down to Tampa on my own and closer to graduating. I was so determined to get back in the classroom and finish the goals I started, right, moving there in 2009 to graduate with a bachelor's degree. Miracles really do happen, but again, I feel the pain for my family who had to see their son at the beginning essentially dead on a bed and slowly come back to life. And without their support, without the support from the great people around me, I certainly would not be here today. Yep, going back to New York, put in the wheelchair because I couldn't walk, and this was a challenge for me, getting through security. It was kind of chaotic, and they were searching my wheelchair like I was smuggling something in it, and of course with a traumatic brain injury, that irritated me very much. So I was just trying to do the best I can, get home, but my brain was still in shambles, as any deviation from the plan would have set me off. And I talk a lot about this in my first book, Left for Dead. Even now, I like to stick to a plan. I'm flexible as an entrepreneur with how I get things done, but I like to time block before bed, right? That's a tool that we're going to be putting out here. Time blocking before bed lowers my stress. I see what my next day looks like. Of course, there's cancellations and some things change, but I don't like to get off the plan. I know what I need to do to get through the day. This is one way I set myself up for success. And like mental health tools, what works for some won't work for everyone, but time blocking is a tremendous game changer. And I credit much of my slowly acquired success to things like time blocking. I was excited to get home, see my mom's small dog, my grandmother, and the good thing was, within a few days, my father and my roommate, John, would be driving back my car and my dog, Lincoln. A few months before this accident, I purchased a dog online. I think it was like $150 on Craigslist. Now, mind you, this is 2012 summer, where it was the size of my forearm when I got him, and he was about 80 pounds when a later landlord told me that I'm not allowed to have animals despite it not being on the lease, and then said I could either forfeit the whole lease, pay it up front, or get rid of the dog. So imagine how tough it could be for someone to have their dog taken away for not doing anything wrong after going through a traumatic brain injury recovery like I did. My dog came home, one of my best friends, and John was there, and he is from Trinidad, so you see him out in the snow with a t-shirt on. Meanwhile, I'm in the house bundled up, right? Bundled up under the blankets, not trying to move. Life throws a lot of curveballs at people, and some people aren't fortunate enough to have a loving family and friends around them, so I do not take that blessing lightly. Once they left, it was really focused. If I had some hometown friends come by in small groups, my mom would remind them like, hey, you are not to do anything with him. Don't bring up anything, right? Keep him calm. But as I started going to these appointments, fortunately for me, I couldn't hear that doctor that told me I may never make it through the night, that I may never walk and talk on my own again, and all of those challenges he said that would be up against me. It was not up to the doctor. It was my decision to make my life whole again. We listen to other people, take what they say as reality, and buy into it. If I had listened to the doctors, then I probably wouldn't be here today. That determination was up to me. No one knew the odds but me. I beat their odds, not mine. The lessons I learned were 100% up to me. Being in a coma may have been a good thing out of this entire situation if it had to happen. And why? Because I wasn't worried about other people's opinions or what they had thought. Not missing any appointments. It came with speech therapy, physical therapy, occupational therapy, you name it. But under the speech therapist supervision, I would drink liquids, swallow foods, read the paper, and that would gauge if I still needed therapy. But when I got to New York after the first appointment, I passed with flying colors, and I was truly as surprised as anything. But in the other appointments out of the house, right, the orthopedic doctors and neurologists, I remember my mother and I bickering back and forth, and that's just something with the brain injury that the caregiver or those close are going to have to endure, and it's not on purpose or personal. So, Mom, I truly am sorry for those challenging times, but my physical therapy was done in-house until I went back down to Tampa. My physical therapist in New York was a great guy. As far as orthopedics and things like that, that was typically out of the house. And the final doctor to end up clearing me was my friend Richie's father, someone I grew up with. He was an orthopedic doctor. We had several appointments while I was there. He ended up giving me periodic walking tests and even took some stitches out that weren't ready to be removed at TGH. But on that one special appointment, that final freezing winter day, he gave me the okay, and it was like Christmas morning for me. I knew the final hurdle in my way was done. I wanted to start rebuilding my life, and was I ready? I mean, the time in New York was limited, but sad. It was expected to be potentially for life, a lifelong dependency on my parents, and I found a way to prioritize my health and keep moving forward. And it was a day that I certainly will never forget. And I remember being at JFK, nervous as anything, extremely early for the flight to make sure I wouldn't miss the flight and there was no issues with my injury. But I knew getting back down to Tampa really was just the beginning. I had very intense months before me, and I knew I still had to be climbing a mountain once I got there. And this is where we'll go back to that invisible disease. I got dropped off in South Tampa, went back to my house in my bag, sat on the couch catching up for a while, and this is where I looked okay, so everyone just thought we were picking up where we left off, but I was exhausted in just moments, right? The internal battles I was still struggling with, and I was in bed early quite a bit as I went down there. This is where physical therapy came back into play. TGH outpatient. This was not at the hospital campus, but somewhere else in South Tampa. And as you can imagine, that was not easy. Learning how to go grocery shopping again, right? Be independent. I set the stage with that appointment earlier, but now I had to go through that. I had one doctor's appointment on my schedule. And I participated in outpatient for a few months when I got back, twice a week. And what's important was here I had my devoted roommates bring me on these mornings because I still didn't have my mobility. The ability to drive was something I couldn't wait to earn back. But hey, I'm a 21-year-old kid. Driving is a pretty cool part of that time period, and that's gone, right? But again, you have to refer back to I'm alive. Nothing else matters. I enjoyed the time when I got down there before summer classes started, and I wanted to mentally prepare myself to be strong enough to go to class, not just have doctor's appointments, but have a class to work on in the summer. And I didn't take that long of time. I mean, you wouldn't believe how quick I got back in the classroom, right? I only finished graduation one semester behind. And the semester I came back, summer classes, if I knew if I could take one or two, it would help lessen the load for my final full semester where there was only 2 classes, right? Summer sessions are split up during UT, so I was able to take one at a time. And it was called the May session. So classes typically during summer aren't as intense on you. So I wanted to leverage that and also help me slowly get back into things. Now, I wasn't shooting for A's, but it was my first time being a completely new person back in the classroom. So it was an unbelievable feeling. But I had to, act like nothing happened. When I came back, this is where I started to rehone these study habits. Read, write, type, listen, read, write, type, listen, read, write, type, listen, again and again and again to only retain a little bit of that information, right? I had to work my butt off because it wasn't easy rewiring my brain. I often am humbled when I hear people I speak with say, oh, you can never tell you had a brain injury. The amount of education and books that I've read, I've really dedicated myself to another area where I got expectations, but they're just that, what other people expect. And out of the summer classes, I did fairly well. I only earned 1 A, but I got 2 B's. And that meant a lot to me because as a finance student, those 400 level classes aren't easy. They require a lot of countless hours, day and night, inside the library to earn these marks, whether it's flashcards, whether it's typing, whether it's listening after I recorded myself. I had to find ways for my brain to retain this information. And I loved it. I still do. If education were free, I'd be in school forever, but this should, I hope, outline that the right mindset can allow you to accomplish phenomenal tasks, and I put in the time and effort, and slowly success started to follow. After that summer, we get into where I wanted to study for the GMAT, right? I only had 2 classes left for the fall. I knew I wanted more in life. I was left alive, but I didn't know what more was, so that's where the GMAT came into play. I hope you enjoyed this testimonial and look into my recovery, and that's where we'll stop for this episode. And the next solo episode, we're going to pick off right from studying for that GMAT and that point in my life. Please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any more of these episodes in the solo series, but also our courageous and motivational testimonials from our mental health rock stars here each and every week. We're brought to you by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. And with that, we are signing off today with another TBI deep dive. My name is Vincent A. Lanci. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for listening. And please share with someone who you feel may find value in this episode. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I would love to hear your feedback. What did you love? What do you want to see more of? Are there any questions you would like me to ask the guests who come on the show? This show is not possible without you, the amazing listeners, so please email us at podcastsbylanci@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We'll also feature you on a later show. Please remember to subscribe to stay current with our amazing community of guests who will continue to come on the show, sprinkled in with solo episodes from me. Vincent A. Lanci. With that, I look forward to introducing more shows to you each and every week. And with that, we're signing off today. Enjoy the episodes and make it a great day ahead.